Hyun looked completely human. That was what disturbed Irith the most. She had seen many species across the galaxy, beings of every shape and size. But this human standing before her looked exactly like the primitive creatures in the old survey files. Same basic structure, same features, same warm skin tone and black hair. Except Vaughn's scanner was screaming that he wasn't. "You must have many questions," Hyun said. He gestured toward the forest. "Please, walk with me. I'll try to explain." Irith nodded slowly. They followed him along a path that wound between massive trees. The forest floor was soft with moss. Sunlight filtered through the leaves in golden shafts. Everything looked peaceful, natural. But Irith's trained eye caught details that were wrong. The trees grew in perfect spacing. The flowers bloomed in mathematical patterns. The birds in the branches sang in harmonies too complex to be random. Even the way the light fell seemed deliberately arranged. "Your ancestors came here when we were young," Hyun said as they walked. "We had just discovered farming. We were building our first permanent settlements, fighting over land and water." He smiled sadly. "We were violent then, scared, trying to survive in a world that seemed hostile. And now?" Irith asked. "Now we understand better." Kes walked close to one of the massive trees. She reached out to touch the bark. "These are old, really old, thousands of years at least." 40,000 years for that one," Hyun said casually. "We've been taking care of them." Vaughn stopped walking. "That's impossible. No human civilization maintains continuity for that long. Empires rise and fall. Cultures change. Knowledge gets lost." Hyun turned to face them. His expression was patient, like a teacher with curious students. "You're right. The old way of being human couldn't do that. We used to die after maybe 100 years. Our memories faded. Our knowledge had to be written down and preserved. Each generation started almost from nothing." "Used to?" Irith felt that cold feeling returning. "We changed. Not all at once. It took time, tens of thousands of years. But we changed." A woman emerged from the forest ahead. She was beautiful, with long dark hair and eyes that held the same strange depth as Hyun's. She wore a simple dress that seemed to be woven from living vines. "This is Minji," Hyun introduced her. "She's one of our teachers." Minji bowed slightly. "Welcome. We're honored by your visit." Vaughn's scanner beeped again. He stared at the readings, his skin flickering through confused colors. "Commander, her biosignature matches his. Actually, both of them match each other in ways that shouldn't be possible. It's like they're part of the same organism." "We are," Minji said simply. "In a way. Would you like to see?" Before Irith could answer, the forest around them changed. Not dramatically, but she noticed movement in her peripheral vision. More humans emerged from between the trees. An old man with a long white beard. 3 children who looked about 10 years old, laughing as they played. A young couple walking hand in hand. All of them looked normal. All of them had the same impossible biosignature. "How many of you are there?" Kes asked. "On Earth right now?" "About 3 million individuals," Hyun answered. "But that number changes. Some of us merge together. Some of us split into new forms. We maintain individual bodies because we like them. They help us remember what it was like to be separate." Irith's hand moved unconsciously toward her weapon. "What are you saying?" The old man with the white beard approached. He moved with surprising grace for someone who looked so ancient. "Don't be afraid. We mean you no harm. My name is Tae. I've been alive for 380,000 years, and I remember being afraid too when we first began to change. 380,000 years. The number was absurd. Irith wanted to call him a liar, but Vaughn's scanner confirmed it. The cellular degradation pattern suggested an age far beyond any biological lifespan she knew. "You need to explain," Irith said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Clearly, what happened to humanity?" Tae sat down on a fallen log. The others gathered around, sitting on the moss-covered ground like children at story time. Hyun gestured for the Velthari to sit as well. About 400,000 years ago, we reached a turning point, Tai began. We had developed technology, not as far as your people have, but enough to shape our world. We built cities, we created machines, we split the atom and touched the quantum realm. Most species reach that point, Ireth said. It's usually when they destroy themselves. Yes, we came close, very close. Wars that could have ended everything. Weapons that could have poisoned the planet for millions of years. Tay's eyes grew distant. But something happened. A discovery. Not a technology exactly. More like a realization. Minji continued the story. Our scientists were studying quantum entanglement. How particles could be connected across distance. How observation changed reality. And someone asked a question. If consciousness arises from quantum processes in the brain, what happens if we entangle multiple consciousness together? Vaughn leaned forward despite himself. That's theoretical. Most species consider it but never attempt it. The risks are too great. We attempted it, Hyun said quietly. A small group at first. Volunteers. They linked their minds at the quantum level, and they became something new. Not a hive mind exactly. They retained their individuality, but they also became part of something larger. They could share thoughts, share memories, share existence itself. One of the children playing nearby ran up to them, a little girl with bright eyes. She couldn't have been older than 8. I was one of the first volunteers, she said in a voice too ancient for her face. This body is young, but I am old. I remember the first linking. The moment when I stopped being alone in my own head.
Kes made a small sound of distress. The change spread, Tay continued. Not through force, through choice. People saw what we had become and wanted to join. Slowly, over thousands of years, humanity linked together. We became a network, a web of consciousness that spanned the planet.
But you still have bodies, Ireth observed. You still look separate. Because we choose to be, Minji said. Complete merger is possible, but we prefer this. Individual forms let us experience the world in different ways. Let us maintain perspective, but we're all connected underneath. All part of the same greater whole. Vaughn stood abruptly. This is impossible. The energy requirements alone would be massive. How do you power such a network? Hyun smiled. We don't power it. We are it. Every cell in our bodies, every tree in this forest, every microbe in the soil, all linked, all part of the same quantum field. The entire planet became our body. The words hung in the air. Ireth felt reality shift around her. She looked at the forest with new eyes. The perfect spacing of the trees, the coordinated blooming of flowers, the harmonious bird songs. It wasn't a forest. It was a single organism, and the humans were its thoughts made flesh. You're telling me, Ireth said slowly, that Earth itself is alive, conscious, and you're all part of it. Yes, they answered in unison. The air suddenly felt too thick. The beauty of the forest became oppressive. Ireth realized they were standing inside a living god that happened to look like trees and flowers and smiling humans. I think, she said quietly, we need to see more. The stars look different now. Commander Ireth stood on the observation deck of the Velthari exploration vessel, watching the blue and green planet grow larger in the viewport. 500,000 years. That was how long it had been since her people last visited this world. The ship's ancient database called it Earth, the third planet from a yellow star, home to primitive creatures who had just learned to plant seeds in the ground when the first Velthari survey team arrived. Violent beings who killed each other over resources and territory. The surveyors had watched from orbit, taken their readings, and left. There was nothing special about them. Just another species crawling out of the mud. Ireth expected ruins. Maybe some scattered tribes if the humans survived at all. Most species never made it past their industrial age. They either destroyed themselves with weapons or poisoned their own world. The database predicted humans would be gone within 10,000 years, but the readings made no sense. Commander, you need to see this. Scientist Vaughn approached, his skin shifting through worried colors. He carried a data tablet that flickered with impossible numbers. "What am I looking at?" Irith asked. "The planet's energy signature." "It's wrong." "All wrong." Vaughn's fingers danced across the screen. "There are no cities. No satellites. No orbital structures. I can't find any signs of industrial civilization at all." Irith frowned. "Then they died out. As predicted." "No, look at these readings." Vaughn pulled up another screen. "The electromagnetic activity is massive, bigger than anything I've ever seen. But it's not coming from machines. It's organic, biological, and it's everywhere." Navigator Kess joined them. She was young, barely 200 years old. This was her first deep-time expedition. Her eyes were wide with excitement. Maybe they learned to live with nature. Some species do that. Not like this. Vaughn shook his head. "The energy patterns are too complex, too organized. It's like the entire planet is one giant circuit but made of living tissue." Irith felt something cold settle in her stomach. In her 3,000 years of life, she had seen many strange things in the galaxy. But this felt different, wrong in a way she couldn't name. "Any signs of the humans themselves?" she asked. "Some. Small populations scattered across the land masses. Maybe a few million individuals. They seem to live in forests near water. Very primitive settlements from what I can tell." Vaughn paused. "But Commander, their biosignatures are strange too." "Strange how?" "I'm not sure yet. The scanners keep giving me conflicting data." A tone sounded through the ship. Communications Officer Ral's voice came over the speakers. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the surface." Ireth's head snapped up. "What, are you certain?" "Yes, Commander. It's directed at us specifically. And it's in our language." The cold feeling in Ireth's stomach grew worse. "That's impossible. Our language has evolved significantly in 500,000 years. How could they—" "You should hear it yourself, Commander." Ireth walked to the nearest comm panel and pressed the activation button. A voice filled the bridge. It was calm, warm, and spoke perfect Velthari. "Welcome back. We've been waiting for you." The silence on the bridge was absolute. Every crew member froze. Irith's mind raced through possibilities, each more unlikely than the last. "This is Commander Irith of the Velthari Exploration Fleet. Who are you?" "My name is Hyun. I'm human. We remember when your ancestors came to visit. They were kind to us. They watched but didn't interfere. We appreciated that." Vaughn grabbed Irith's arm. "Commander, that's impossible. No species maintains cultural memory for that long. And the language—" Irith held up a hand for silence. She spoke into the comm again. "You're saying your people remember our first visit? 500,000 years ago?" "Yes." The voice sounded amused. "Though time feels different to us now. Would you like to visit? I can provide coordinates. The landing will be safe, I promise." Irith looked at her crew. Vaughn's colors flickered with fear and fascination. Kess looked eager despite the strangeness. The others waited for her decision. Every instinct told her to refuse. To jump back to faster than light speed and return home. To report this mystery and let others investigate. But she was an explorer, and this was why she traveled the stars. "Send the coordinates," Irith said. The numbers appeared on the navigation console. A location on one of the larger landmasses in a region the old database called Korea. "Prepare a landing shuttle," Irith ordered. "Vaughn, Kess, you're with me. Full scanning equipment. Defensive weapons set to standby." As the crew scrambled to obey, Irith stared at the planet below. So beautiful. So peaceful. The clouds swirled in perfect patterns. The oceans gleamed. The green land masses looked pristine, untouched by the scars of civilization. But something was wrong. She could feel it in her bones. The shuttle descended through the atmosphere 30 minutes later. Irith piloted while Vaughn monitored the sensors and Kess checked their weapons systems. The ride was smooth. Too smooth. No turbulence at all, as if the very air was guiding them down. "Energy readings increasing," Vaughn reported. "Commander, the closer we get, the stronger the signals become. It's like the whole forest is alive." "All forests are alive," Kess said. "Not like this. These readings suggest consciousness, organization, purpose." They broke through the clouds. Below them stretched an ocean of green. Ancient trees covered the landscape as far as the sensors could reach. No roads, no buildings. No signs that humans had ever developed technology. The coordinates led them to a clearing beside a river. Irith set the shuttle down gently. Through the viewport, she could see flowers blooming in impossible colors. The water ran crystal clear. Birds sang in the trees, and standing in the center of the clearing was a human. He looked young, maybe 25 in human years if the old database was accurate. He wore simple clothes made from plant fibers. His black hair moved in the gentle breeze. He was smiling. That's him, Kess breathed. That's the one who contacted us. Vaughn's scanner beeped frantically. Commander, his biosignature is all wrong. He looks human, but the cellular structure is impossible. It's like his entire body is quantum entangled with something massive. The readings extend beyond him, into the ground, the trees everywhere. Ireth stood. She checked her sidearm and nodded to the others. Let's meet our host. The shuttle door opened with a hiss. The air that rushed in smelled like growing things and old earth. It was clean in a way that made the recycled air of the ship seem dead by comparison. Hyun waited patiently as they approached. His smile never wavered. His eyes were dark and deep and seemed to hold forever inside them. Welcome to Earth, he said in perfect Velthari. We have so much to show you. The emergency council meeting had been going for 3 hours. Ireth sat at the head of the conference table aboard the ship, watching her senior officers argue. They had been arguing since the landing party returned and shared what they found. We should leave immediately, Security Chief Nal insisted. His skin flashed angry red. This is beyond our mission parameters. We came to study primitive humans, not encounter some kind of planetary god. We can't leave yet, Vaughn countered. The scientific implications are staggering. We need more data, more understanding. This could change everything we know about evolution and consciousness. That's exactly why we should leave. Nal shot back. We're not equipped for this. We need to report back and let the council decide how to proceed. Ireth rubbed her temples. She had the beginning of a headache, which was rare for her species. Navigator Kess, you've been quiet. What are your thoughts? Kess had been staring at the table. She looked up and Ireth was startled to see tears in her eyes. I can't stop thinking about it. About them. They seem so happy, so peaceful. But they're not really individuals anymore, are they? They're all part of something bigger. They gave up being themselves, did they? Vaughn asked softly. They maintain individual perspectives, individual memories and experiences. They can separate from the network if they choose. Can they really? Kess challenged. Or is that just what the network wants us to think? How do we know those people are still people? Maybe the network just puppets their bodies around to make visitors comfortable. The thought sent chills through the room. I don't think that's it, Ireth said slowly. She had been thinking about this for hours. When Hyun spoke to us, I could see real personality, real individuality. They're not puppets. They're just connected in ways we can't fully understand. That might be worse, Nal muttered. Before anyone could respond, the ship's communication system activated on its own. Every screen in the conference room flickered to life, showing a simple message in Velthari text. May I speak with you? The doors to the conference room opened. Every officer reached for their weapons. But the person who walked in wasn't armed, wasn't threatening. It was just a human man who looked about 30 years old with kind eyes and an apologetic smile. I'm sorry for the intrusion, he said. My name is Day. I didn't mean to frighten you. How did you get on my ship? Ireth demanded. We're in orbit. Our sensors showed no transport beams, no shuttles, nothing. Day looked uncomfortable. I just came. It's hard to explain in ways that will make sense to you. Matter and energy are connected at the quantum level. When you're part of the network, you can reorganize yourself anywhere on or near Earth. He paused. I probably shouldn't have done it without asking. But I felt you were distressed. I wanted to help. Vaughn's scanner beeped frantically. Commander, his biosignature just appeared. He didn't beam in. He didn't walk in. He just started existing inside our ship. Are we in danger? Nal had his weapon drawn and pointed at Day. No, Day said gently. Never. We would never harm you. But I understand you're afraid. You came here expecting to find primitives, and instead you found something that challenges your understanding of what's possible. That's frightening. Ireth gestured for Nal to lower his weapon. Slowly, reluctantly, he did. Why are you here, Day? To answer the questions you're afraid to ask. Day moved to the large viewport that showed Earth below. You want to know if we're a threat? If we have weapons. If we could destroy your fleet if we wanted to. The silence that followed was heavy. Could you? Kess asked in a small voice. Day turned to face them. His expression was sad. Yes, not with weapons. We don't have those. But we could rearrange the matter of your ships at the quantum level. We could simply stop the nuclear reactions in your engines. We could do many things. He held up his hands. But we won't. We've never harmed anyone who came in peace. Who came in peace? Irith noticed the specific wording. What about those who didn't? There have been others. 3 times in the last 200,000 years species came to conquer, to claim Earth as theirs, to harvest our resources. Day's voice remained gentle, but something flickered in his eyes. They don't come anymore. What did you do to them? Vaughn asked. We asked them to leave. Politely at first, then more firmly. When they refused, we made them incapable of violence, removed their weapons, disabled their ships, sent them home with their memories adjusted so they couldn't find Earth again. Day smiled sadly. We don't kill if we can avoid it. Every consciousness is precious, but we protect ourselves. The implications settled over the room like a weight. This peaceful, gentle species that lived in forests and spoke softly could end civilizations with a thought. How many species have you watched? Irith asked. You said your ancestors remembered our first visit. Have you been watching us this whole time? Not just your people. Many species. 47 civilizations have risen in nearby space over the past 500,000 years. We've observed them all. Day moved to sit in one of the empty chairs, making himself seem less threatening. We watch, we learn. Sometimes we help, though very carefully, very gently. Help how? Kess leaned forward, preventing self-destruction mostly. A few species came close to nuclear annihilation. We might have guided some missiles off course, made some weapons fail at critical moments. Small interventions. Nothing obvious. Day looked at each of them in turn. Did you ever wonder why the Velthari avoided total war during your expansion period? Why certain conflicts resolved peacefully when all projections said they wouldn't? Irith felt her blood run cold. You manipulated us. We nudged. Gently, carefully, we don't control anyone. We just prevent the worst outcomes when we can. Your species made its own choices. We just made sure you survived long enough to make them. This is insane, Nal said, his colors shifting rapidly. You're saying you've been secretly influencing galactic history for hundreds of thousands of years? Only locally. Only species within a few hundred light years. And only to prevent extinction-level events. We believe in free will, in allowing species to develop naturally, but we also believe consciousness is too precious to waste. Day's expression was earnest. We're not trying to rule anything. We just don't want to be alone in the universe. Vaughn stood abruptly. He paced to the viewport, staring at Earth. You chose differently than everyone else. Every species that develops technology spreads to the stars, builds empires, conquers new worlds. That's how survival works in the universe. But you turned inward instead. Why? Day joined him at the viewport. Because we asked a different question. Everyone asks, how do we survive in a hostile universe? They build ships and weapons and colonies. They spread out to avoid extinction. But we asked, what if the universe isn't hostile? What if we don't need to run? The universe is hostile, Nal argued. Resources are limited. Space is vast and dangerous. Expansion is survival, is it? Dee's question hung in the air. The Velthari Empire spans 200 worlds. You have faster-than-light travel, massive fleets, advanced technology. But are you happy? Are you at peace? Or are you constantly worried about the next threat? The next war? The next resource crisis? No one answered. We chose integration over expansion, Day continued softly. We merged with our world completely, became part of the ecosystem instead of exploiting it, and we found that one planet, fully integrated, fully understood, can support consciousness in ways that 1,000 conquered worlds never could. Irith felt something shift in her understanding. You're not asking us to join you. You're asking us to question everything we've built our civilization on. Day nodded. Every species reaches a crossroads. Expand or integrate, conquer or merge, spread wide or go deep. Most choose expansion, but we're proof that there's another way, a way that leads to something different than empire. Kess spoke, her voice breaking. You're saying we made the wrong choice? That the Velthari Empire, all we've built, all we've achieved, is somehow less than what you became? No, Day said firmly. Not wrong. Just different. The universe needs explorers, needs species that spread and discover and build across the stars. But it also needs species like us, anchored, deep, connected to one place absolutely. He smiled. Maybe both paths are necessary. Maybe the universe needs diversity in how consciousness evolves. But Irith could see the doubt in her officer's eyes, could feel it in her own heart. They had spent their entire lives believing expansion was the answer, that building bigger and spreading farther was the path to survival and meaning. And now this gentle human was showing them a species that achieved transcendence by doing the opposite. The question haunted her. What if we made the wrong choice? Minji led them deeper into the forest. The trees grew larger as they walked, their trunks so wide that 10 people holding hands couldn't circle them. The canopy above blocked out most of the sunlight, leaving them in a twilight world of green shadows and filtered light. More humans appeared as they traveled. A young man named Jay who smiled and nodded as they passed. An elderly woman called Isul who was tending a garden of luminescent flowers. Children everywhere, playing games that seemed normal until you noticed they never spoke to coordinate their movements. They just knew where each other would be. How do you communicate? Kes asked, watching 2 boys throw a ball back and forth with perfect timing. I don't see you talking much to each other. We don't need to speak aloud when we're close, Hyun explained. Thoughts flow between us like water. Speech is for guests. For people outside the network. Vaughn was recording everything with his scanner. His colors had settled into a pale blue of fascination mixed with fear. The energy readings are incredible here. The quantum entanglement extends through everything. The trees, the soil, even the air seems to be part of it. They emerged into a clearing where a small stream ran over smooth stones. The water was perfectly clear. Fish swam in lazy circles, their scales catching the light. Are the fish part of it too? Ireth asked. Everything alive on Earth is part of the network, Tay said. He had followed them, moving silently through the forest. Animals, plants, bacteria, fungi were all connected. All one system. Minji knelt beside the stream. She placed her hand in the water. The fish don't have individual consciousness like humans do. They're more like cells in a body. They serve their purpose. They live and die and return to the cycle. But their simple awareness feeds into the greater whole. This is insane, Vaughn muttered. Do you understand what you're describing? A planet-wide consciousness. Billions of individual organisms all linked into one network. The processing power alone would exceed anything we've ever encountered. Yes, Minji said simply. She stood and gestured for them to follow her further. But you haven't seen the real miracle yet. Come, let me show you the beneath. She led them to what looked like a natural cave entrance. The opening was wide, surrounded by roots that seemed to form an archway. Luminescent moss provided gentle light. We're going underground? Kes asked nervously. Don't worry, Hyun said with a gentle smile. You're perfectly safe. Earth would never harm guests. The way he said it made Ireth's skin crawl, as if the planet itself was listening, making decisions, choosing to keep them safe. They descended into the cave. The walls glowed with that strange moss, providing enough light to see. The air was cool and smelled of earth and growing things. Ireth noticed that the walls weren't rough stone. They were covered in something that looked like root systems but far more complex. They pulsed with faint light like veins carrying blood. What is this? Vaughn breathed, pressing his scanner against the wall. The nervous system, Minji answered. The real network that connects everything. It runs beneath the entire planet. Through the rock. Through the ocean floors, everywhere, they walked deeper. The tunnel sloped down gradually. More of those glowing root systems covered every surface. The pulsing light grew stronger, creating patterns that moved in waves. Ireth realized she could almost see data flowing through them. Information traveling at impossible speeds. The tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber. Ireth stopped walking, her breath catching in her throat. The cavern was enormous, stretching away into darkness beyond what their lights could reach. But it wasn't empty. The entire space was filled with structures that defied description. They looked organic and technological at the same time. Massive pillars of crystallized biomatter rose from the floor. Webs of neural tissue connected everything in complex patterns. Streams of light flowed through channels in the walls like rivers of pure information. This is beautiful, Kes whispered. This is horrifying, Vaughn countered. Both were right. This is where we truly live, Tay said, his voice echoing in the vast space. The bodies you see above are just extensions, interfaces with the surface world. But here, beneath the soil, is where Earth's consciousness really exists. Minji walked to one of the crystalline pillars. She placed both hands on it and closed her eyes. The pillar began to glow brighter. Images appeared in the crystal, playing like memories. Ireth saw ancient humans building fires in caves, saw the first cities rising, saw wars and destruction. saw the moment when everything changed. Scientists in a laboratory, their heads covered in strange devices, the moment they linked their minds and became something new. We didn't build this, Minji said, her eyes still closed. We grew it. Over hundreds of thousands of years. Every human who joined the network added to it. Every generation made it more complex, more capable. We merged our technology with biology, created something that was both and neither. The images in the crystal changed, showed the network spreading across the planet, showed forests returning as cities were absorbed into the system, showed humanity choosing to live simply above ground while their true existence pulsed beneath. You abandoned space travel, Ireth said, understanding dawning. You stopped building outward. Why would we need to? Hyun asked. We achieved something better than spreading across the stars. We achieved unity with our own world, perfect integration with our biosphere. We became the planet and the planet became us. Vaughn was frantically scanning the chamber. The processing capacity here is beyond measurement. This single chamber contains more computational power than our entire empire's network. And you're saying there are more of these across the planet? Thousands, Tay confirmed. Under every continent, beneath every ocean, all connected, all working as one. Working to do what? Kess asked. The humans smiled. It was the same smile on all their faces, as if the same thought animated them all. To think, they said in unison. To understand. To experience existence from every possible angle. To explore inner space instead of outer space. Minji opened her eyes. The crystal stopped glowing. We discovered that consciousness doesn't need to spread across the galaxy to grow. It can deepen instead of widening. We turned inward and found infinity there. Irith felt dizzy. The implications were staggering. An entire species that had chosen transcendence over expansion. That had become something so alien that they barely qualified as the same beings their ancestors were. How many of you are there, really? She asked. Not bodies, you, the consciousness. The humans looked at each other. They seemed to be conferring silently. That's difficult to answer, Hyun finally said. We maintain about 3 million individual perspectives, but those perspectives can merge and separate. Sometimes we're all one being, sometimes we're millions. It depends on what we're trying to understand. And death? Vaughn asked quietly. Optional, Tay said. Our bodies age and fail, yes, but consciousness transfers to the network. We can grow new bodies when we want them, or exist in the network itself, or merge with others. Death as you know it doesn't exist for us anymore. The old man who claimed to be 380,000 years old suddenly made sense. He wasn't one body that old. He was a consciousness that had worn countless bodies over the ages. This is wrong, Kess said suddenly. Her voice was shaking. This is all wrong. You're not human anymore. You're something else, something that wears human faces but isn't human at all. You're right, Minji said gently. We're not what we were. We evolved into something new. Is that wrong? Irith had no answer. She stood in an underground cathedral of living technology, surrounded by beings that looked human but were really parts of a god pretending to be people. I think, she said quietly, we need to return to our ship. 3 days later, the Velthari fleet prepared to leave. The ships hung in orbit above Earth, their engines warming up for the jump to faster-than-light speed. But before they departed, the humans invited them to one final gathering. The meadow was beautiful. Wildflowers bloomed in every color imaginable. A stream ran through the center, its water singing over smooth stones. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. About 50 humans had gathered, sitting in small groups on the grass. They had prepared food, simple things made from plants and fruits. They smiled and talked quietly among themselves. Ireth stood with her senior officers, feeling awkward in this peaceful scene. They wore their formal uniforms, looking stiff and military compared to the humans in their simple clothes. Other crew members had come down as well, wanting one last look at Earth before they left. Hyun approached them, carrying a wooden bowl filled with what looked like berries. Please eat. These are sweet. Good for traveling. Vaughn took one cautiously. He scanned it quickly, then popped it in his mouth. His color shifted to surprised pleasure. This is excellent. We've had a long time to perfect our agriculture, Hyun said with a smile. A child ran up to them. The little girl named Jin, the one who claimed to be 50,000 years old despite her young appearance. She carried something wrapped in a cloth. I brought you a gift. For your journey. She unwrapped the cloth to reveal a seed. It was small, dark, and ordinary looking. But Vaughn's scanner immediately started beeping. "What is it?" Irith asked. "It's a seed from our network," Jen explained. "If you plant it in soil and water it, it will grow. Just a small version of what we have here. Nothing dangerous. Just a little piece of Earth that you can take with you." "Why would you give us this?" Kes asked. Jin's ancient eyes looked at her. "Because maybe someday you'll want to try another way. Maybe your people will get tired of spreading and conquering. Maybe they'll want to learn integration instead. This seed will be there if you need it." She held it out to Irith. The commander hesitated, then took it carefully. It felt warm in her palm, as if it was alive and aware. "Thank you," Irith said softly. The sun continued to set. More humans gathered. Tay was there, the ancient one. Minji and Jay and Isol and dozens of others whose names Ireth had learned over the past few days. They all seemed happy, content in a way that Irith rarely saw in her own people. "I have a question," Vaughn said to Hyun. "You've integrated with Earth completely, made yourselves part of the planet's ecosystem. But what about curiosity? Don't you wonder what's out there? Don't you want to explore the galaxy?" Hyun considered this. "We explore in different ways. We send our consciousness out sometimes riding on light waves. Quantum entanglement lets us observe distant places. We've seen other worlds, other stars. It's beautiful out there." He paused. "But we prefer to go deep rather than far. We're still discovering new things about consciousness, about reality, about the nature of existence itself. Those mysteries are infinite. We'll never run out of things to explore inward." "But you'll never leave Earth," Kes said. "You'll never walk on another world. Never see a different sunrise." "True," Minji joined the conversation. "We're anchored here. But that's a choice we made. Freedom isn't about going everywhere. Sometimes it's about choosing one place and knowing it completely, loving it absolutely, becoming part of it." Day materialized beside them. Irith was getting used to how the humans could just appear, but it still made her jump. He carried a simple wooden flute. "May I play something? A farewell song?" Irith nodded. Day put the flute to his lips and began to play. The melody was hauntingly beautiful, sad and hopeful at the same time. Other humans joined in, some with instruments, others humming. The music filled the meadow, and Ireth realized it wasn't just sound. She could feel it in her bones, feel it in her mind. The humans were sharing something through the music, some emotion or thought that transcended language. Even her officers were affected. Vaughn's colors shifted to peaceful blue. Nal's aggressive posture softened. Kes had tears running down her face. When the music ended, silence filled the meadow. It was a comfortable silence, the kind shared between old friends. "We won't see you again, will we?" Irith asked quietly. "Probably not," Hyun admitted. "Your empire is expanding away from this region, and we don't travel. But we'll remember you. We remember everyone who visits. Your kindness will be part of Earth's memory forever." "What will you tell your people about us?" Tay asked. Irith thought about that. "The truth, that we found humanity alive and well, that they evolved into something we didn't expect, something amazing and terrifying and beautiful." She looked at the seed in her hand. "I don't know if anyone will believe me." "They don't have to," Minji said gently. "The important thing is that you know, that you've seen there's another way to exist in the universe." Kes stepped forward suddenly. Her colors were shifting rapidly, showing internal conflict. "I want to stay." Everyone turned to look at her. The other Velthari officers stared in shock. "What?" Irith asked. "I want to stay here. Learn from them. Understand how they did this." Kes's voice was shaking but determined. "I'm young. I have thousands of years ahead of me. I want to spend them learning something new. Something none of our people have ever studied." "You can't be serious," Nal said. "You'd give up everything? Your career? Your family? Your entire life in the Empire? I'd be trading it for something else. Something that might matter more." Kes looked at Hyun. "Would you accept me? As a student?" Hyun exchanged glances with the other humans. That silent communication passed between them. Then he smiled. "We would be honored. But you should know, joining the network isn't reversible. Once you're part of it, you'll never be truly separate again. You'll never be just yourself anymore." "I know," Kes said. "I've been thinking about it since we arrived. I've been lonely my whole life, even surrounded by people. The idea of never being alone again, of being part of something bigger, it calls to me." Ireth felt a pain in her chest. Kess was one of her best officers. Young, brilliant, full of potential. But she could see the determination in the navigator's eyes. "If this is truly what you want," Erith said slowly, "I won't stop you. But take time, make sure. This is permanent, I'm sure," Kess said. She stepped away from the other Velthari and moved to stand with the humans. They welcomed her with smiles and gentle touches. The farewell continued for another hour. Food was shared. Stories were told. The humans asked about the Velthari Empire, genuinely curious about their lives and experiences. They offered no judgments, no criticisms, just acceptance. Finally, as the last light faded from the sky, Erith knew it was time to go. "We should return to the ship," she said. The humans walked them back to the shuttle. Hyun walked beside Erith, quiet and peaceful. At the shuttle door, he stopped and bowed deeply. "Thank you for visiting. Thank you for being kind. Thank you for trying to understand, even though what we've become is strange to you. Thank you for sharing your truth with us," Erith replied. She looked at Kess standing with the humans. "Take care of her. We will. She'll be part of us. Protected, loved, never alone again." Erith boarded the shuttle with Vaughn and the others. Nal took one last look at Kess and shook his head but said nothing. The door sealed. The engines activated. As they rose through the atmosphere, Erith looked down at the forest, at the meadow where the humans still stood waving. At Kess, already looking more relaxed than Erith had ever seen her. They docked with the main ship. The fleet prepared for departure. Erith stood in her quarters looking at the seed Jin had given her. She filled a small pot with earth soil that Vaughn had collected for samples. She planted the seed carefully, watering it with recycled ship water. Within an hour, it sprouted, a tiny green shoot pushing up through the soil. Erith stared at it, feeling something she couldn't name, and she could swear she heard it thinking. The fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed. Earth disappeared behind them, a small blue dot that quickly faded to nothing. But Erith stood by her viewport for a long time, watching the space where it had been. On Earth, Kess stood with Hyun in the meadow. The other Velthari ships were gone. The stars were coming out overhead bright and clear. "How long will it take?" she asked. "To become like you?" Hyun smiled. "You already are like us. You just haven't integrated yet. We'll go slowly. Let you adjust. Give it a few thousand years and you'll feel at home." Kess laughed. It sounded almost hysterical. A few thousand years, time that would have terrified her before. But now standing in this peaceful meadow with these gentle beings who had conquered time and death and fear, it seemed like nothing. "I have time," she said. "Yes," Hyun agreed. "You have time. We all have time. That's one of the gifts integration brings. You'll never run out of time again." He held out his hand. Kess took it, and she felt it immediately. A presence in her mind, not invasive, not controlling, just there. Other consciousnesses brushing against hers like warm water, welcoming her, accepting her. She started to cry, not from fear, from relief, from the sudden absence of loneliness that had haunted her entire life. "Welcome home," Hyun said softly. Above them, the stars wheeled in their ancient dance, and Earth, patient and conscious and vast beyond measure, welcomed one more mind into its infinite embrace.